Hey everybody, and today we are talking about the next installment in Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. So we're talking about the first two interludes. So we've made it all the way through part one, and I gotta say I don't actually have anything to say about the interludes, which I feel has been the case for the last few of these, so I feel like why am I still doing these, but I'll just stick with it now because I started it, right? But so hopefully I'll have a little bit more interesting things to say in the future as well. But so in the interludes, we have the first interlude, which is from the perspective of Kalak, is that how you say it? One of the heralds who basically was left behind on Lasting Integrity. We saw this a few installments ago, and he returns to his room, and he's kind of like worrying about how to keep away from Tartashar, is that how it's called in this realm? So from Kelsier. And when he returns to his room is already occupied by apparently somebody who is one of the Windrunners. I've never heard of this person. I've also already forgotten his name. It was something like Fleet, Fist, I don't know. Something along those lines. But apparently he is working for the Ghost Bloods, and he has basically been like manipulating, I think, or like, I don't know, he has the loyalties of the Spren that they've been using as a seance to communicate between like Outtro, I guess, and Lasting Integrity. And so basically that Spren has been spying for Kelsier, and so they also know now the location of, I'm not going to even attempt to remember that name, but basically the fused that Shallan is going to try and locate. So we have a little bit of a race between Kelsier and Shallan. Shallan for the win, please. But so that is mainly what we saw in that one, right? There's some use of otherworld magic here as well. So we all, of course, have the Seon, but we also have like the breath work from Warbreaker in here. And what I found out, because for this one I did go and look at like the discussions afterwards, because you know I didn't really have much to say about this, and I felt like some of these things relied on knowledge that I didn't really have. But so it seemed like one of the big reveals here, according to one of the reactors in any case, is the fact that the Herald Ishar has basically been like somehow mentally balancing the other heralds. So, and this reactor was saying that the implication for that could be that like all of the sort of like long-lived beings could find some sort of like mental counseling through another being, that if another being were to really were to be able to take over some of that burden the way that Ishar is currently doing, then that would potentially be something interesting for future Stormlight moments. And then the second, what do you call it, interlude is from the perspective of Odium, or Todium as we prefer to call to him, and that kind of reinforces the idea of that, you know, Odium Todium is still sort of like a split personality. So Taravangian, who used to have that sort of like split personality between like being extremely like slow and on the uptake and extremely quick on the uptake, he still has some sort of a split personality going on now, because he can be like the callous Odium, or can do the callous stuff that Odium wants and requires, but on the same time he can also feel extremely the way that he, as his sort of more like slow in the uptake persona used to always be like as well. And so he's basically kind of contemplating the good things and bad things that can come out of war, but there's also some sort of an implication which I don't really like, or maybe that's just already like set up for the next 5 books, in which he's kind of indicating that because this whole agreement about the champions fights has been made with a previous version of Odium, that he doesn't need to abide by that these are rules that were set in the past, and that he can potentially break them. And whereas I don't actually remember who he's kind of conversing with. Yeah, he's conversing with Cultivation, right? And whereas Cultivation is kind of indicating that, you know, like they've always respected what has happened, like the agreements and settlements that have been made by their predecessors. But it seems to me like Terravention just might break that. But that potentially can just be like the little seedling that we're putting out there for the next 5 books, because we know that there are like 2 arcs of 5 books. And so potentially we are gonna resolve, what my idea has always been, we're gonna kind of resolve this whole thing within the first 5 books, and then someone is going to break the agreement within the next 5. My idea or my conjecture is actually more like that the good guys are gonna break it, that some of the good guys are gonna do something in between these 2 story arcs that will result in, or like within the first book of the second arc. I feel like one of the good guys is gonna break that agreement somehow and thus trigger a like new conflict. But it could also, of course, just be that Terravention is going to do that, or if Terravention is being the Terravention that we know him as, then he might just like sneakily trick them into breaking the contract. Thus, yes, hey. Thus, you know, sticking to his side of the deal or his predecessor's side of the deal, but you know, like sticking to the letter of the word, but not to the spirit of the words. But so yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about these 2, because I mean they really weren't that long neither, so I really don't think that there's any reason to dwell on them for much longer. But so yeah, they're shorter, but that makes sense as well, I think, because I feel like we definitely had like 3 or 4 interludes typically, and now we just had the 2, but as we are gonna have like 10 parts to this book instead of the usual 5, and that also just makes sense, you know, that we're gonna do it like that. Personally, I kind of feel like we should have, structurally speaking, made the deal for 5 days and not for 10, because then we could have kept the 5-part structure that we have had always. Or maybe we should have just done 2 days together always, but that is also a little bit clunky. I feel like that would have been the perfect thing, but yeah, I am a little bit of a stickler for that, I guess, for structure, but it's not to say that I will hate it whenever you break it. Like this also happens with Chorus of Dragons, for example, which has a very interesting structure in the first book. Then in the second one, it kind of starts to feel like it's a little bit like forced. In the third one, they kind of mock the structure. And then the fourth one does a spin on it, and the fifth one kind of does its own thing again. So I don't necessarily mind breaking structure all that much, but I do think that it would have been more structurally sound to make it a 5-day deal, but maybe that would have been like a little bit too much squeezed into a day that it wouldn't have been realistic anymore, I guess. But so yeah, let's just end it here. I'm going to see you guys again for the next installments pretty soon, I guess. I think we're still on the 1 a week schedule at this point in time when you're seeing this video, but pretty soon we'll ramp it up for a little bit when I'm on holiday. So yeah, pretty soon you'll have 2 of these a week. But so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed even. But so yeah, if you guys have anything to say about this, please do. If there are some reveals within these interludes that I'm like completely blocking out because I didn't reread anything else in the Cosmere before this, and I'm just not somebody who like holds on to all of these small details or names that help me out here, let me know what I'm missing in this interlude. But so yeah, with that I'm gonna end this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it and see you guys for the next one. Bye!